For at least 20 years, many European governments have been aware of the public policy and defence implications of the highly successful global positioning system for GPS, constructed, owned and managed by the United States government. As many will know, GPS satellites circle the planet in stationary positions. The signals they transmit allow virtually anyone with the right equipment to obtain an accurate fix on a geographical location anywhere in the world. But there are at least 3 political and commercial problems with the GPS system. First, because the system is entirely controlled by the United States of America, it can be switched off at any time by that government. Some nations have not been entirely comfortable with this situation, especially in Europe, but also in China and Russia. Second, the possession of such a system provides real competitive advantages. Technological know-how, practical experience and economies of scale and scope to those companies able to win GPS supply contracts, primarily, obviously, American companies. Third, there is a real and increasing customer demand for GPS satellite services, according to some estimates. One estimate says that the business opportunity could be as much as $250 billion by 2020. For these 3 reasons, the politicians of the European Union agreed back in 1999 to develop their own global satellite positioning system. It would be called Galileo and would require around $3.5 billion investment, which would be shared amongst the countries of the European Union. The competitive advantage of the new Galileo system over the US GPS system would be the employment of new digital technology, which is more accurate, more precise, and able to carry more satellite channels. And the strategic process for developing the new system was also agreed. It was to be by competitive tendering by rival European companies who would shoulder most of the investment costs. But over the succeeding years, it then all went wrong. Initially, there was some success. The designs were agreed, the technology is not difficult and is well proven, and the first experimental satellites were launched in 2005 and 2006. There were even some exploratory discussions with other interested countries like China, India and Israel about sharing the development costs. It was not only Europe that was aware of the political and defence implications of the US dominance of GPS satellite systems. Unfortunately, and in spite of these early successes, the whole Galileo project began also to unravel during this period. There were at least 3 major difficulties that arose. First, and unlike the USA, Europe did not have a central fund for satellite development. This meant that it needed to collect funds from each individual European country with all the political problems that were then highly likely to arise. Each country wanted its share of the Galileo project. Eventually, it was agreed that the headquarters would be located in France, with operations run from Germany, England and Italy, and with a backup facility in Spain. Second, the competitive bidding process between European companies essentially collapsed. Initially, 2 rival groups of very powerful companies competed for the main contract, with the choice between them being made by a pan-European awarding authority. But this European body could not agree on which group of companies would gain the contract. As soon as there was a hint that one group would lose, it would quickly appeal to its own national governments to get the decision overturned. Eventually, the European Selection Authority backed down. The 2 rival bidders were brought together to form one joint bid. This meant first that there was no incentive for the bidders to keep down their costs. Second, the European Union was left with no negotiating options when the bidding satellite consortium said that it wanted more protection if the Galileo system was to fail at some later stage. The third difficulty related to the delays in the strategic implementation of the chosen Galileo strategy. Instead of being fully operational in 2006, the European system was finally expected to be ready in 2011. But by this time, the Chinese government, who had initially been interested in operating with Galileo, were expecting to have their own system in operation. Equally, the US government were expecting to have a totally upgraded GPS system in digital format by 2012. Thus, the competitive advantage of Galileo would potentially be lost before it could be fully established. To get the most from this case, it's important to read the more detailed information in the printed material. It will provide more information on the companies involved and the government decision-making process. But the fundamental public sector strategic issues are clear. Where does the public interest rest in this case? Should public sector strategy be open to competitive tendering? Or should it be largely a matter of public central direction and choice? How far should political support subsidize commercial ventures like the development of a satellite system? And what are the lessons from Galileo about public sector strategy implementation?